Lesson for today, dear children, is how to stop being a peasant. And what do I mean by that? It doesn't matter what you will do. If you will meditate, exercise, work on your skill, increasing your income, if these good habits will come from a bad place, it will get you back to the world that you started from, because you didn't work on how you see the world and how you perceive the results that you're after. In the past, I was living in Warsaw and Krakow, two big cities in Poland. In the beginning, I had a lot of bad habits. I was eating junk food, smoking weed, etc. But later I changed my approach. I started working out, meditating, posting content on YouTube, reading books and all of that. But still, my mindset didn't change and I was still a peasant. I come from a small village of like 300 people live there, and I decided that I will get back to Warsaw once again. My friend recommended me to a job in a bank. Here's me during a break. Here's me getting up and doing a work. When I got hired there, I talked with my friend. He's from a small town too. And he told me that when he first started to work there and moved to Warsaw, he was still a little peasant in his mind. And right away I realized, fuck, I still am. And I have to do something about it, because it probably once again pulled me down to this place. And I don't want that. I don't want to lose all of this time working hard as motherfucker if in the end I will get back to this place. And if you will not fix this problem, however hard you will push yourself, it will work like a rubber band. You will pull it and it will snap over and over again. To fix this problem, what you want to do is to use spoiled brat method that I invented. You probably know this kind of guy that was just born into a rich family, and being surrounded by money, luxury, wealth is just natural. This is just norm for him, and he doesn't acknowledge how much of an advantage he had just because he was born in such an environment, because subconsciously this is now norm for him, and this is like how it should be. I cannot imagine it being the different way. To recreate this spoiled brat effect, here's what I did. So I was working in a bank. Next to this bank there was this modern building called Warsaw Spire. This is how it looks inside, kind of fancy, modern, minimalistic, and there's a gym there. Once again, fancy for fancy people, and I started to go and work out there. Why? Because I wanted to surround myself with these kind of things, so more and more they could become a norm for me, to recreate this spoiled brat effect. Other things that I did: going to some fancy hotels and see the people around there, for it to become normal for me and for my brain that there are a lot of people that spend a lot of money. There's a lot of money in the world. There are people that are buying these expensive glasses. There are people that are buying Rolexes. I expose myself to as much luxury as possible. I went to a fancy restaurant, I went to this car salon, and just was walking around like it's just a sunny Sunday. I started to notice these things more and taking pictures of it. Also, side note, art is something that works very similar. Not sure why, but it brings you to present moment. It brings up emotions that are inside you. So I visited art museums and stuff like that in Warsaw. And doing all of this will get you to this demythologization process. Another fancy name that I invented, because if you will first expose yourself to these things, you will understand that, okay, it is possible, it is doable, there's money all around, there are people with money all around, people are spending tons of money, and it's just common. And this itself is a big enough reason, in my opinion, to move to a big city. But then there comes the mythologization process. When I was a teenager, me and my friend were into rappers, meaning rappers were our role models. For whatever reason, it was just trendy back then. Everyone wanted to become a fucking rapper, and we were mythologizing these guys, because what we saw about them was the pros. So the girls money, cars, fame, diamonds, whatever. You probably remember you doing that when you were a child. You watching some movie star, some celebrity, and putting them on a pedestal. They're being like an Ubermensch, superhuman, almost like they are from another planet. And if you will mythologize these people, put them on a pedestal, you will only see the pros. And this is a peasant mindset, because even being a rapper means that you have to yell on your concerts, you are working through a nighttime a lot of times, you constantly travel, there are a lot of drunk or doing drugs people. You only see this side and you ignore the cons. And a lot smarter way to choose what you're after and what you should do with your life and how to get the results that you want, you should first choose your sacrifice, because there always be a sacrifice if you will first demythologize it in your mind. Not going to sugarcoat it for you. I moved to Warsaw and it was still a good decision, but for example, a lot of times it's very loud. There are tons of people. I got sprayed with pepper gas in the face by some douchebag that I didn't want to let him sit on my place. I got into a fight with some guy, and this is something that your brain has to understand. Until you will expose yourself to how it really looks like in reality, whatever you're after, and until you will demythologize it, until then, your brain will always prefer imaginary, and it will pull you back, because imaginary only has pros, and it will prefer to stay in imaginary world forever, and it will keep you stuck, because you can always wait for some more time before you start. If you will only start, it will all work out for you, of course. Imaginary world and illusion is much more pleasant than the reality. But you have to understand that you not making a choice, so in other words, choosing comfort, watching TV, playing video games, partying, whatever you're doing is also a choice. Not making a choice is also a choice, and everything has a price. If you will not make a choice by choosing comfort, it most likely decrease your mental health, because you're not actively working on it by meditating, journaling, because whatever you're not working on will just naturally decrease. Your lifestyle will probably suck, because you will work in a job that you hate, because you didn't actively work on your skills, and because of that you will most likely end up lonely and broke. Maybe you think that you're not lonely because you have a lot of friends with which you're playing video games and doing vices on the weekend, but they are only your friends when it comes to doing vices and playing video games with, and the reality is that you're just alone in the crowd. So in other words, the reality is coming, and it's not like you can just choose to hide your head in the sand and pretend like nothing is going on. Reality is still going to catch you and bite you in the ass in the end. To summarize all of that, what I would suggest to do is what I did, is to move to a big city and expose yourself to new people and new experiences. When it comes to new people, I also attended a lot of meetups. I started talking with people that make more money than me, to millionaires, entrepreneurs. Second, make things outside of your league more natural and normal for you. If you will just surround yourself with the things that you want, you will bring yourself closer and closer to a reality that you want to experience by recreating this spoiled brat effect. And third, make it all more real and fully understand cons and reality of those things that you're after, and that it's not only about pros. Experience more and expose yourself more to the reality, to what is and how it looks like in practice, other than working hard and reading books. This will never give you as much as this. This will always win. Remember that it's not that you can ignore it forever. So if you want to change something about it, Renaissance of Productivity, first link in the description. Price is laughable for the amount of stuff that is inside. There's a 30-day money back guarantee on Gumroad. If you want to learn how to get rid of negative thinking that might be also keeping you stuck in your old reality, go and watch this video, and to be continued.